All right, so first of all, Schoology, what are we doing today? I'm going to teach you this new concept. It's called compound inequalities. After that, you're going to go into LT1, do the instruction for the next lesson, take notes. Remember how you get the notes? There's like a little plus sign and you just go to the plus sign. You do not need to submit your notes, okay? So when you finish your notes, if they're on Kami, I'm hoping that you're organizing your notes maybe in like a online Google Drive folder named math or something. But if you're printing them out or writing them out, then I think the best thing for you to do would be to take a folder. If you ordered school supplies this year through the school, you should have gotten a 3-ring binder that was intended for math. Okay, so bring your 3-ring or just put everything in your 3-ring binder and try to get organized. If you're coming back to school on Monday, I get to see 27 of you. But if you're coming back to school on Monday, then bring that binder with you so we can put our papers. Because starting from Monday, I will be handing you papers in class, okay? Just so you don't have to write so many things down on line paper. I'm sorry for those of you who are not coming to school. You're just going to have to either just keep on doing it on a separate sheet of paper, or I'll have all the copies attached on Schoology like the day of, the night before, whatever. So if you want to quickly print it while we wait for all the other kids to come into class, that's fine too. Okay, so today, Edgenuity instruction, take notes. Okay, but you don't have to submit your notes. All right, let me go ahead and explain what we are doing today, okay? So today we're going to be talking about something called compound inequalities. So let's talk about that first, okay? Imagine if you were in like elementary school. Remember when you were in like first grade and you had to write sentences and you're like, the hat is red, the hat is big. Like that was just your simple sentence. But remember when your teacher was like, okay, let's make it a compound sentence. So you're like, okay, instead of saying the hat is red, the hat is big, you would say the hat is big and red. Does that kind of ring a bell where you're making like a compound sentence? You're combining two ideas and forming it into one sentence. So that's what we're kind of doing today, okay? So today, like normally you have answers like x is greater than 4 and, x is less than 10. I don't know. So like instead of writing two things, x is greater than 4 and x is less than 10, we're going to combine it to a compound inequality and say, well, if x has to be greater than 4, and we always want to put x in the center, so x is greater than 4, but it also has to be less than 10, this is what a compound inequality looks like. I'm taking two simple ideas and I'm combining them together into one sentence. That's basically what compound means, right? Like making it more complicated, okay? That's kind of the gist of it, okay? So when we have compound inequalities, we have two types of statements, okay? This is the most important thing you need to know, all right? You have an and statement and you have an or statement. Those are the only two types of compound inequalities you have. They are either ands or ors, okay? The way that you know that something is an and is your inequality will look like one long sentence. It'll be like x is greater than 1, but less than or equal to 10. Like you see how these two things occur in the and, like x has to be greater than 1, and at the same time, it has to be less than 10. So it has to be in that range. Whereas if you have an or statement, you could say like x can be less than 1 or x can be greater than 10. So do you see how those two are different? It could be less than 1, any number less than 1, or it could be any number greater than 10, but it can't be any of those things in between. Now, the way that I know that something is an and statement is when I graph it, there's always the line in between. It always looks like one connected line, okay? Whereas or always looks like they're going off in two separate directions. Because if x has to be less than 1, doesn't it go in this direction? But if x also has to be greater than 10, doesn't it go in this direction? So do you see how ands, like they combine with each other into one picture, but ors, they're always going to go off in different directions. Okay, so that's the biggest thing you have to realize. When you see a picture and there's one line connecting them, it's an and statement. But if they're going off in different directions, then it's an or statement. Okay, and these are the two types of compound inequalities. So let's take a look at this. First of all, look at this picture. Let's try to write it as an and or an or. There's only one option. So I see a line with two dots and they're connected in between. So what did I just say? Is this an and or an or? And, right? And is always connected in between. Okay, that was the rule. So if it's connected in between, that means you write it as one sentence. Okay, so you go from -2, you go all the way to 6. You always have X in between when you have an and statement. And then you write your symbol. So look at the one with -2. Is it like, do I write the line underneath the inequality or is there no line underneath?
Line underneath.
There's a line underneath because your circle is filled in. And look, it's going to the right, so it's X. The X is greater than or equal to. Okay, so now let's look at the 6. Is there a line underneath the inequality or no line?
No line.
And since it's going to the left, that means it's less than, so X is less than 6. So I feel like the way that these inequalities, like the direction that they face, might confuse you. Just think of it this way. The alligator is always going to eat to the right. Whenever you write an inequality with an and statement, the alligators always eat to the right and to the right. And the reason why is because you always write from the smallest number to the biggest number. So first of all, let me tell you this. If you write your inequality, this is what we just wrote. -2 is less than or equal to X is less than 6. This is the correct answer, right? I just kind of spread it out right here, but this is really the correct answer. If you flipped it and you said 6 on the left, -2 on the right, and then you had them going like this is technically the same thing, right? I'm just like reversing everything, but this is not okay. This would be wrong. And the reason why this way is wrong is because you always have to have the smallest number on the left and the biggest number on the right, just like how you have a number line in math. Smallest comes first and then the biggest. Okay, so you know that your alligators always eat to the right. They're never going to eat in this direction when you write it as a compound inequality. Okay, so this is your answer. Normally, you know that when you see one long sentence, it's always an and problem. Okay, so if it's one sentence, it's an and problem. Some people like to write this X, like as an alternate answer. They like to write, instead of this, they like to write X is greater than or equal to -2 and then spell out the word and X is less than 6. I guess this is okay. Honestly, you don't see it very often. Okay, you might see it like out of, 100 kids that learn algebra, maybe there's one teacher that teaches it this way. Most teachers are going to teach it this way. If you like take a test, you're normally going to see it this way. But I guess if you really wanted to separate the two things and write the letter A and B between it, I guess you could. So know that that's an option, but honestly, no. Okay, normally you just want to write it as one long sentence. Okay, so let's try the second one. You see this picture. You see that in your picture, you have two arrows, but they're going in different directions. So is this an and or an or? Or. So you know, just because you have to know this rule, whenever you have two arrows going in different directions, it has to be an or statement. So when I do this, I'm going to write it as an or statement. And for all or statements, I actually have to spell out the word or. Okay, it's not connected anymore. I have to spell out OR. So let's see what's happening. It looks like there's X with a -1. And it looks like it's going to the left. So is that greater than or less than?
X is less than 1.
Less
or
than.
-1.
Yeah, X is less than -1. Or now let's look at this one. So we have X and 4. It's going to the right. So is it greater than or equal to or less than or equal to?
X is greater than or equal to 4.
Greater than or equal to because it's going to the right. So this is my answer. So do you see the difference between how I wrote these answers? If it's an and problem, you write it as one big sentence and that's it. You don't really spell out the word and. But if it's an or problem, then you have to spell out the word or. If you just write this and then this, but don't spell out the two letters OR between them, it would be considered wrong. Okay, for an OR problem, you have to write OR. Okay, so let's try one more before we do word problems. Okay, look at this picture. First of all, I see arrows going in opposite directions. Is that an and or an or?
Or.
Okay, it's an or. Good. Right? When they go off in different directions, it's an or. All right. You try to write it yourself. I'll give you about 30 seconds. And if you get it wrong, that's okay. Today's the first day. Okay, does anyone think they know how to write the answer of this picture?
I did, I think.
Okay, try.
X is less than 0, or X is more than 2.
Perfect. That's it. I hope you got that. If you didn't, that's okay. We're going to practice more. This is an or statement, so you have to write the word or. If you didn't write the word or and you just left it like that, that would be wrong. Okay, you have to write the word or. It's less than 0 because it's going to the left, but it's greater than 2 because it's going to the right. Okay, now let's practice writing it when you have a word problem. Okay, so a number D is less than or equal to 2 and greater than or equal to -2. So the first thing you need to do is figure out, is this an and or an or problem? And, because it says a number D is less than or equal to 2 and greater than or equal to -2. I think some of you think it's an or problem because you read or here or here, but just read carefully, because do you see how these ors are or equal to? The ors here mean that you just have the line underneath your inequality. Okay, so if you know that you have an and, think about what an and looks like. It looks like one long sentence. Okay, so you have then, when you have one long sentence, you always have X in the center. You have your smallest on the right and your biggest, smallest on the left and biggest on the right. So what's your smallest number here? -2, right? What's your biggest number? +2. So then let's look at the -2. It is greater than or equal to. So that's what it looks like, because X is greater than or equal to in this situation, right? Because it's eating the X. And then D, oh, sorry, it didn't say X, it should say D, but honestly, who cares? It's the same thing, X, D, Y, Q, whatever. Okay, and it's less than 2, or less than or equal to 2. So D is less than or equal to 2. Again, if you're confused with like which way the inequalities face, just realize that if you write the smallest number on the left and the biggest number on the right, the inequalities always face this way. Okay, so you always have like some number and then some number. You just have to figure out if there's lines underneath or not. Okay. So when I graph this then, let's graph this situation. I have -2, I have +2. I know it's an and I have lines underneath. So I have it closed dot, closed dot. So if it's an and, I don't even have to think about which way my arrows go. If it's an and, I know it's always connected in between. And that's my picture. Okay, let's try another one. The number m is no less than -1 or less than or equal to -5 1/3. So first thing you need to do is figure out, is this an and or an or problem?
An or problem.
Because of this right here, no less than -1 or less than or equal to -5 1/3. Okay, so you know that when it's an or problem, what is the rule? You have to write them out separately and then spell out the word or in between. So let's do that. So your m, honestly, if you want to write x, that's fine. So is no less than, shoot. Okay, so if you have no less than negative, so let's just say you have no less than this many dollars. Does that mean you're greater than or equal to or less than or equal to? You have no less than this.
Greater than or equal to.
So you are greater than, if you have no less than, let's just say $10, that means you don't have $9. You have $11, right? If you have no less than $10. So if you have no less than $10, you can be bigger than 10. So if you know less than -1, that means you can be bigger than -1. Or you have to spell out the word or it's wrong. Okay. Or m is less than or equal to -5 1/3. So that's how I would write that. Okay. Now let's graph it. So I have 2 dots. What is the first number on the left? Is it the -1 or -5 and 1/3?
-5 1/3.
Yeah, so -5 1/3 on the left. Because remember, a number line, smallest number on the left, biggest number on the right. So for the -5, it's a closed circle. For the -1, it's a closed circle. I don't even have to think about it. I know an or statement always goes in opposite directions. So I don't even really need to think about it. Ors always go apart from each other. Ands always connect. Now, some of you might be like, wait, can I flip it? Like, can I write it as m is less than or equal to -5 1/3 or m is greater than or equal to -1? Like, can I reverse the two in the order? And that's fine. It doesn't matter. Okay, so you don't have to put like the smaller thing first and then or and then the bigger thing. For the ors, it really doesn't matter how you write it out. It just matters how you graph it. Okay, any questions so far? I know this is kind of weird. We're doing this for 2 more days. Okay, tomorrow you're not going to do Edgenuity. You're actually going to watch a video of, I think it's me teaching this. Okay, again, and then the day after, so Friday, you're actually going to do the Edgenuity quiz. All right, so today is instruction. Tomorrow is YouTube video of me teaching. And then Friday is Edgenuity quiz. Okay, let's do one more. Write the sentence as an inequality and then graph it. All right. A number p is greater than -3 and less than 4. So first of all, is this an and or an or?
An and.
Because I see the word and here. So when I know and means that I write it as one sentence. I don't separate them. I write it as one sentence. Okay, so one sentence, that means I have p, I have my smaller number on the left, I have my bigger number on the right. And then I know the alligators always face this way, but let me clarify to see if they need lines underneath. P is greater than -3. Okay, so P is greater than -3. It's not or equal to. Okay, P is less than 4. P is less than 4. Oh, okay, so not or equal to. So that's it. And then when I graph it, -3, +4, I have open circles. All right, do the arrows go in opposite directions or do they connect?
Connect.
They connect because ands always connect, ors always go in opposite directions. Okay,